Hawaii in my mind, because nobody wants to study as much as I have. But we have Pat Addabbo, who is the Executive Director from Oregon Adaptive Services, or Sports, excuse me. We've heard from their group before, and I think it's probably one of the coolest things that they do to get people with disabilities out and playing in this great wonderland we get to call home. So, without further ado, Pat, come up and thank you.
Yeah. Well, Chris said I was fortunate to present everybody about 2 years ago, and it's really great to be back. Some of you, I recognize a few of you, and Lauren, it's nice to see you.
Nice to see you again.
We were in a group together. So if you're not familiar with OAS, I'll certainly go through the general what we do and how we do it. If you are, I hope you'll be excited about the work that we've been up to over the last couple of years. So Oregon Adaptive Sports, our mission is to create access to high-quality outdoor experiences for individuals with disabilities. As Chris mentioned, we live in this beautiful part of the country. So many of us like to recreate outdoors. The benefits are innumerable that you get from being outside, and we try to create access to them. Our vision is a day when every person with a disability has access to those benefits of outdoor recreation. That they can get outside and play and do all the sports that everybody wants to do when they're not working, basically. Our programming, so what exactly do we do? We run programming year-round. We have skiing, snowboarding, cross-country skiing, and snowshoeing programs. We run at Mount Bachelor, we run at Hoodoo, and we started a new program at Mount Ashland just this past winter, a pilot program, so we expanded to Southern Oregon. In the summertime, we are doing a lot of mountain biking, cycling, paddling, hiking, and golf. And our mountain biking and cycling programs in particular are growing and growing really fast. We're getting a ton of participation in those. So why do we exist? Why aren't these sports already accessible? I'll talk a little bit about that. First of all, the prevalence of disability is often quite a bit higher than people realize. A recent study by the Oregon Health Authority had a result of 24% of adults and 30% of youth in Oregon experiencing some form of disability. That's a really broad range. Not everybody with a disability needs adaptive sports, but there's certainly a large percentage of the population that is prevented from accessing these various things from numerous barriers. So at Oregon Adaptive Sports, we focus on 5 pillars that we think create the most access for the populations that we serve. First and foremost, we focus on facilitating those top quality experiences. So a lot of times somebody with a disability, they just need a little bit of support to get outside. A really kind of obvious example I like to give is we ski with a lot of individuals that are blind or visually impaired. So we will take that individual, we will be their guide for them on the Nordic ski trail, on the alpine slopes. They need that individualized support. But that extends to tons of people. Young children with cognitive, intellectual, developmental disabilities, they often need one-on-one instruction. And then working with the more physical mobility impairments that we work with, that also takes a lot of specialized training. So number one is the support. We have a full-time staff of 6, and in the wintertime we have over 250 volunteers that support our programs. The second big pillar that we focus on is providing access to state-of-the-art adaptive sports equipment. A lot of the pictures that you see, sit skis, off-road hand cycles, tandem mountain bikes, these things are not cheap. They are a pain to maintain. We have one of our full-time staff, his whole job is maintaining our equipment. We now have over $300,000 of adaptive sports equipment in our inventory. One of these sit skis in this picture here, that runs about $9,500 for one of those. The mountain bikes in the first picture, they cost about $15,000. So every time we're adding a piece of gear, it's a huge fundraising effort, but it's a really critical access point of what we focus on. Because it's also expensive, we also want to make sure our athletes can access these sports without having to pay a ton of money. So we always ensure that cost is not a barrier to participation. In fact, most of our programs, especially in the summertime, are offered at no cost. We have specific no-cost options for new athletes, youth athletes, veterans that participate with us. We really are just trying to make sure that that is never a barrier to participation. The last 2 things that we try to help with, we maximize accessible transportation. We have a wheelchair accessible bus. We work with local partnerships to help get people to where they need to be. A lot of the we're seeing more and more, but a lot of public transportation doesn't get to the ski areas or trailheads or lakes, and so we want to make sure that people can access the programs where they are. And then finally, we're always just working to promote the inclusion of people with disabilities in the outdoors, doing focus groups and advisory boards and things like that, promoting our cause and further representation. We were founded in 1996, so we've been around for a little while. We've been skiing for most of those years. Like I said, we have 6 full-time employees, over 250 volunteers. They've donated over 6,000 hours this winter alone. About 100 or more will help out in the summertime. They are the world's greatest volunteers. They go through tons and tons of training. It's a joy. A lot of times volunteers, once they get involved, they often say, I feel guilty. I feel like I'm getting more out of this than the athletes are. But it just really creates this great partnership, symbiotic relationship often between the athletes and the volunteers. We currently have 13 board members, and we have about a $900,000 a year operating budget. We serve athletes all the way from their first time ever on skis all the way to the world stage. So on the far right here, this is Robbie Drugan. He learned to ski with OAS 12 years ago at Hoodoo, and he competed in the Beijing Paralympics last year. So we've had folks ascend to the very highest level. And then, of course, we have folks that are coming up to ski with us that have sometimes never even seen snow before. They're sometimes visiting, or they live in Central Oregon, have never been to the ski areas before. So the whole spectrum comes and participates with us. A little more detail on what we did this winter alone. So we did 1,318 experiences this winter for individuals with disabilities across our 3 ski areas. 700 at Bachelor, another 70 Nordic, 400 at Hoodoo, and then about 40 down at Mount Ashland with our new pilot program. We've been growing. That is a 28% increase of what we did last year. So because we've been able to buy more equipment, we've recruited more volunteers, we've expanded some of our other fundraising efforts, we've been able to increase our capacity and get more people outside. Some of the specific programs and things that we do I wanted to highlight. One of the big ones we do is called Ski for Life. And this is a program where we partner with a lot of the Central Oregon educational, high school, and other institutions to provide access, recurring access to adaptive snow sports for youth with disabilities. We currently partner with 10 agencies, all of the Bend high schools. We partner with a group called the Northwest Association of Blind Athletes, Sisters High, and Sisters Middle School. And we are working to get Redmond High School out this winter. So we're hoping we can get some funding for them and actually get them up to Hoodoo to participate. So that's in the works. It's something we are looking for support for to get those kids out. Typically how that works is we work with the life skills teachers. So they work with the students with disabilities. They recruit 6 to 10 kids to come up and ski with us, and they ski 4 weeks in a row. And a lot of times we see the same kids, they come back every year of high school. So they'll ski 4 weeks in a row, 4 years in a row, and it's often this entry, kind of point of entry to all these other great activities, and we just see so much transformative growth for those kids over the years. So it makes up almost a quarter of our winter experiences, almost 300 experiences this winter alone for those youth that participated in that program. This slide is not working, but this is our 17th annual Veterans event. It's called Heroes. We had the 16th annual last year. We have the 17th annual coming up in 2024. We'll be serving 8 disabled veterans, plus their family member or caregiver. They come to Bend for the weekend, and we put them up in lodging for 2 nights, and we ski 2 days at Mount Bachelor. It's one of our longest running events. It's always a big joy, huge community, really great time. That's funded by a grant that we get passed through to us from the Department of the VA, so it's completely costs are covered. It's really great. That event, again, is one of our longest standing, just most popular events. I also mentioned new to OAS athletes, so that's another pathway we give people to participate with us at no cost. So we started a program this past year called the First Turns program. So if it's your first time skiing with OAS, you get to ski your first 3 days for free, no matter what. And that allows people to get in, kind of get a taste of it, and then we hope they keep coming back. And we have a partnership actually with Toyota, who underwrote that program for us this year. They donated a nice big check to us to help underwrite those costs. And this winter alone, you can see it supported 13 athletes at Mount Ashland, 39 at Mount Bachelor, and 12 at Hoodoo for about 150 experiences total of people that had never done adaptive skiing before, now got into the sport. In total, it cost us about $33,000 to pull that off. But thanks to Toyota, we had a big chunk of that paid for. These are some of those athletes that participated with us. This is actually a family from Redmond, and the dad works up at Mount Bachelor, and their son got to ski with us for the first time this winter, which was great. This is just it's kind of a long quote. It's a little hard to read too. I'll just read it real quickly. This is from a parent of one of those athletes. This program is amazing. My child was able to experience skiing for the first time and have confidence, let alone so much other growth. She has an excitement for skiing that she didn't have before and now wants to come back. Thank you for providing such a positive experience. We will definitely be back. The scholarship program for first-time OAS athletes was a lovely bonus. Many times us parents don't know if our kids will be able to do it, let alone enjoy it enough to last more than 15 minutes. So grateful for all of your staff and program. So it is a huge barrier. The parents can just come up, give us their kids for a couple hours, and it's no risk. You know, skiing's a little dangerous, but as far as they're concerned, it's no risk. And we have a pretty good success rate where the kids want to come back. So some other just highlights, things we've been up to. This is another picture from our veterans event. That's the athlete in the sit ski there. Her name is Lynn. She's skied with us for probably 10 years. This is an event we have every year at Hoodoo called Junior Racers. We had 24 kids with disabilities skiing from all across the state of Oregon. It's one of our biggest events. Over 100 people in total participate that day. We have an annual event also at Hoodoo called Camp Pa. It's a weekend facilitated entirely in American Sign Language for youth and teenagers that are deaf or hard of hearing. All of the coaches that volunteer to support that program have to be fluent in sign language. It's, as far as we know, it's the only program of its kind in the country, a fully immersive weekend. Our development director, who helps me with all of our fundraising, she is deaf, and that's kind of her one big programming that she runs every year. It's a super cool program. This was the 10th year for that. Our big fundraiser in the spring that helps pay for all this stuff is called the Ski for All. It's always in March. We have a big, fun, all abilities, family-friendly ski-a-thon up at Mount Bachelor. It's a really low cost of entry. We raised over $150,000 this year at that event. This was the 6th annual. We also do a little bit of traveling. We went up to Mount Hood. We do this also every year, and we work with the ALS Association of Portland and Southwest Washington. We work with individuals who are living with ALS or Lou Gehrig's disease, if you're familiar with that. You have a question?
Yeah. Go ahead.
This is one of those athletes up at Mount Hood. We get to ski with this woman and her family on that day. We've done that again for probably about a decade. We've done that event. They don't have as big of a program at Mount Hood, so we're able to come up and support them at that day and provide as much access as possible.
Could you explain to us the picture on the upper right-hand corner? It looks like they've got the skier tethered to
Yes.
the...
So part of that training that we do, our athletes need various levels of support. The sit ski, so this woman in the top right is skiing what we call a bi-ski. So it's a sit ski with 2 skis underneath it. You can ski those independently without assistance once you progress through the learning curve. A lot of times individuals will have certain impairments to their balance or strength or something where they need some assistance. So in this picture, our instructor, Ellie, is attached with 2 pieces of webbing, and they're skiing in tandem, essentially. She can help control the speed of the sit ski. She can help initiate and finish turns. But the athlete in front, Lynn, she's able to ski, essentially she could ski independently with a bit of a safety back there, or you can always just stop, or you can help that person navigate the slope. So that's a pretty common instructional technique that we use. It takes quite a bit of training to be able to do it safely. You take up quite a bit of space on the hill, and there's some added risk management involved. But it's one of the techniques that we use to facilitate.
Could they do that for me if I were trying to ski?
You have a permanent disability? Absolutely. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
He just wants to
I'll vouch for him.
Yeah. We don't ask too many questions. This is also kind of, we wrap up our winter season. We have this, I think, this great symbolic transition to summer. We always jump into the pole pedal paddle. We supported 4 teams of people with disabilities this year in the pole pedal paddle. That ebbs and flows. We've had as many as 10. We had 4 this year competing in the adaptive division, where we go literally from winter skiing at Mount Bachelor down to paddling in the Deschutes River in the same day. So if you've ever done the PPP, it's a super fun time. Summertime is here. We're kind of in the middle of it. Last summer we did 540 experiences. So we did 1,300 in the winter. This summer we're projecting about 750. So summer's about half as busy as wintertime. We'll serve about 200 unique athletes. We run community programs, which primarily is our cycling program that runs at Pine Nursery Park in Bend. It runs 5 days a week. We have 2 sessions that are open for any person to drop in. We also have some specific groups that we work with that they come out with their participants and use our equipment. We have about 25 adaptive bikes over there. We have private mountain bike lessons, so we have a fleet of adaptive mountain bikes. We provide instructions just like in the wintertime for people to learn how to mountain bike with a disability, and then if they'd like to go out and ride more and more of the advanced trails. And then we also do a lot of groups and events, a focused week or weekend with a specific group or population. One of those is a new event we started in 2022, so we've done 2 of these so far. We call it Turns and Berms. We started this, it's in the spring, so we ski Mount Bachelor in the morning and then we mountain bike in the afternoon. And this event is specifically for individuals with spinal cord injuries. And we partner with a foundation called the Kelly Brush Foundation that is a national foundation that supports individuals living with spinal cord injuries. And then they partner with us to facilitate this weekend. This year we had 13 individuals with spinal cord injuries participating, including this young woman, Ryan, who's in her early 20s, who came out for her first time, and I'll read this as well. She said, "The Turns and Berms camp gave me so much confidence and excitement about returning to sports after my injury. I was injured just over a year ago in a skiing accident, so my goal was to get back on the mountain this year at least once. I have run into several barriers trying to get back into sports, so the fact that Turns and Berms was seamlessly planned and free to participants made it one of the most significant experiences I've had in the last year." And this is Ryan, right here, mountain biking on KGB Trail down on the Phil's Network in Bend, one of our adaptive mountain bikes. So what's kind of coming at us, what are we working on? We are in the middle of a big capacity building project. We're calling it the Moving Mountains Project. It started last fall. It's a 3-year effort. It was partly to expand to Mount Ashland, to buy a lot more gear, and to really round out our capacity so we can keep increasing and increasing our services, meeting the demand. So in total over the 3 years, this project is about $1 million in effort that we're working on, about $300,000 in adaptive sports equipment, more skis, more bikes, that kind of stuff. About $500,000 in program and operating expenses, expanding those programs for those new athletes, the youth athletes, summer cycling and mountain biking. And then we're also growing our team. We're currently hiring a marketing coordinator. We're looking for that job right now. And we're doing some other focused marketing efforts to keep getting our story out there. We're always looking for support for the Veterans Program. We have that one big event that we do in January. We do also work with the Wounded Warrior Project. We work with a group called Save the Brave. We do mountain biking with those groups in the summertime. It's really something we're always looking for the community to help support us so we don't have to charge any money for that. And the last thing we're doing is, it's a little vague at the moment, but we're working on what we call the Dispersed and Immersed Project. And we're trying to locate our operations in places that make the most sense. So the easy example is we keep our ski equipment at the ski areas, thanks to partnerships with Bachelor and Hoodoo. They let us keep space up there. We're trying to replicate that. Our bikes now live at Pine Nursery Park. We're working with them, Bend Parks and Rec, to get a permanent building at that park that we can keep the bikes in. We're looking for the same thing for our mountain biking. And we're also looking to relocate our little headquarters, which is tucked in this little warehouse building in the north end of Bend. It's been there for about 15 years that we have outgrown. So kind of in the works right now with the specifics of that plan, but we'll be working on that over the next 3 years. Lastly, some of our partnerships. I mentioned a lot of these already, our ski areas, the Trail Alliance, the foundation, some of the veterans groups we work with. Some of our biggest funders who helps pay for all this stuff, Dutch Bros has been a huge supporter of us in the past couple of years. Some private foundations, the Marie Landfrom Roundhouse Foundation, Visit Central Oregon Future Fund. They invested about $60,000 into that Moving Mountains project, so they invested quite a bit of money in that. And some other businesses like Toyota, Hydro Flask, and things that you've probably heard of before that help pay the bills, keep the lights on, and buy more gear. And if you're curious, where does our money come from? You know, in the big kind of chunks, about half of our budget comes from individual donations from individuals or businesses. So outside of an event, we raise about half of our revenue throughout the year doing that. We do have our two big events. I'll have a couple more slides on those. The Ski For All I mentioned and our gala in October. They pay for about a third of our budget. Grants ebbs and flows depending on the year, 10 to 20%. And of what we charge for our services, last year only 7% of our revenue came from our program fees. So our board has been committed to raising the money to help keep those costs low, and thus far we've been able to pull it off. So this is our other event. We have it coming up October 19th. If anybody's interested, it'll be at the Unitarian Fellowship down in Bend. This is OAS's big fundraising gala for the year. We're hoping to raise about $200,000 this year. We'll be featuring new films and stories and highlighting the impact of our work this year. And next year, Ski For All is already scheduled for March 16th. If you're a skier, it's a super fun day, $50, gets you breakfast, lunch, fun games, things to do on the mountain, and it all goes back to supporting our programs. And I think that's it. Happy to answer questions. Or
So you mentioned that there's a program you're trying to get started with Redmond High.
Yes.
Can you elaborate more on that?
So it's back to the Ski for Life program. So we're hoping to, let's just go way back here. We're hoping to add Redmond High to this list.
Okay.
So we've been working, I'm forgetting his name, I could ask my program director, with the life skills educator there at Redmond High to schedule Ski for Life ski experiences for his students this coming winter at Hoodoo. So assuming it follows our model, we'd be looking to schedule them 3 to 4 days. Typically, it costs us every time one of those kids comes to ski with us, and they'll do a half day, it would cost roughly about $180 to $200 for us to support that lesson. That includes the discounted lift ticket that we get. We get a huge discount, but they're not totally free from Hoodoo. That includes whatever equipment that they might need. It would pay their instructor, or, help support the volunteer costs. So we are looking for funding to help support that program this winter. And I don't think we have details in terms of how many kids or anything like that. If you took the average, which would be like 6 to 8 kids, you can call it 30 experiences times $180. Or 600, somebody could do that math for me. But 30 times 20 would be easier math. That'd be $600 would help pay for those kids to ski with us this winter. So.
Back to the picture you had at the before this one. Looks like the individual sitting in a chair.
In which one? This one?
The very last one that ended your program with.
Oh, sure, yeah. That's a different type of sit ski.
Yeah,
it's cut off a little bit here. So we call this a mono ski. So the bi-skis have 2 skis, the mono skis have a single ski. This is often utilized by somebody with lower, like a spinal cord injury, a low-level spinal cord injury. So they have strong upper body but no use of their lower extremities and can progress towards independence. This athlete, this was one of her first ski experiences. She's working with our instructor, Jeremy, here. So what you can't see here is the skis mounted underneath her, and then she uses what we call outriggers, and they're kind of like ski poles with tiny little skis on the bottom that help them steer and balance. Just like anyone learning to ski, you would start here. You can see these at the Magic Carpet here. And this type of equipment, it gets more advanced the better you get at skiing, but it's essentially the same. If you look at this, I'm going to go back here a little bit. If you look at this picture, it's a little small on the right here, Robbie and Anna, these are both expert level skiers. They're skiing the same type of equipment called a monoski, just a more advanced, that has a nicer suspension and lighter materials, that kind of thing. So that's a different type of sit ski.
So I'm a big skier, and I think it's fantastic seeing those folks up there. And it's amazing because skiing's a somewhat technical sport, and I think that just makes it even more technical. And I swear they have more grace than some of us without a disability or anything. But one question I have is, you guys are Oregon Adaptive Sports, and I mean, is there plans more to grow that? Because it sounds like a lot of what you guys do is in Central Oregon, but you'll do some Hood, you'll do some Ashland. You're bringing people in.
We do several. So I guess two parts to answer your question. There are other organizations like Oregon Adaptive Sports in other parts of the country. Before I moved to Bend in 2016, I worked for a program called the Adaptive Sports Center in Crested View, Colorado. In the Rockies, in every major ski town, there is an OAS, more or less. Every little ski area has their own little nonprofit. They typically are a little older, and this is based on the evolution of the industry, so to speak. So in Colorado, there's 7 or 8 programs like OAS. In New England, there's another dozen similar in all the kind of major ski areas of New England.
Is there a national network?
So there's a national network called Move United. It's one of our major partners. So they're a bit of like a trade association. So a lot of us we pay annual dues. They have a conference, that kind of thing. We get grants sometimes from them. And they help keep us all together. We're all talking and we share best practices and things like that. In the state of Oregon, we are the only dedicated nonprofit doing adaptive skiing, alpine skiing. For whatever reason in the Northwest, adaptive, and I could talk for hours, but adaptive skiing founded in different ways after the Korea War, and especially after the Vietnam War, there was amputee groups that were skiing after those service members were coming back, and there was groups getting them out. That is largely kind of the basis of a lot of adaptive skiing. From there, things have kind of grown and emanated. So some programs are as many as 50 years old. Some are more like OAS, approaching 30 years. So there's a lot kind of in that like 25 to 40 year range that have been around for a while. Recently, the programs have just gotten so much more advanced with the new gear and all this stuff. For whatever reason in Oregon, it didn't get set up like it did in Colorado. There's not a program in Government Camp and in Ashland and in Bend and in Sisters. There's just OAS. And so second answer to your question is we are slowly trying to create more access. So we started the program in Mount Ashland. That's a really small ski area. If you've ever been down there, Ashland itself is small, but Medford is huge. There's a couple 100,000 people that live in the area, so there's a big population to serve. And we have small partnerships with Mount Hood. They have really limited access. Again, there's never been a momentum there. It's not in our 3-year strategic plan to start a program up there, but we get asked almost weekly, when are we going to start that program? And I would suspect in the next 5 years, we're going to start looking at how can we help increase the opportunities up there, either through partnerships or direct programming.
Cool.
So you have skiing and we saw mountain biking. Do you need anything with other sports like softball, basketball?
We don't.
Running, not running, but road races?
We don't. We focus on those, those outdoor sports. We don't do any like stick and ball sports or team sports. There are other adaptive, not in Central Oregon, but in Portland there's a group that does team sports. They do like wheelchair basketball and that kind of thing. Our mission is outdoor recreation, so we focus on those. We do a little bit of those. We do have a golf program. It's pretty small, although we do, in the next 3 years, we're hoping to grow that quite a bit. So that would be the only kind of like game sport that we play. And then we do a little bit of hiking and paddling as well, but no like races or other team sports. Yeah.
How did you get involved in adaptive sports?
I got involved, I started learning about this type of outdoor recreation when I was in college. I have a degree in outdoor leadership. I was fortunate to decide to make that my career. And, if you maybe you're familiar with programs like Outward Bound and the Knowles and National Outdoor Leadership School, that was what I was originally thinking I was going to do. And then I was introduced to this type of work in college, and I just fell in love with it. So I don't have like a personal story necessarily, like a parent or a sibling or something that was affected by it. Immediate member of my family was affected by disability. I certainly know a lot, especially now I know a lot of people with disabilities. But and I graduated from college in 2008, and I've been working full-time for 15 years now in adaptive sports. So it's been able to make it August of 2008 is when I started working full-time in this field. which it's amazing just to see in that time how much it's changed and grown and the advancements and things like that.
Cool. Pat, thank you.
Thank you.
Got a little token of appreciation. It's one of our
Oh, thank you.
hand-turned Kiwanis pins.
There you go. Thank you so much.
Appreciate it. Well, you're all going to get a few more extra time in your day. I'm not going to take it to answer study questions. But thank you, and no more bad jokes. Thank you. We'll see you next week.